Did you know that more than half of all Brazilians today trace their ancestry back to the millions of people forcibly brought to the country as slaves from Africa?
It's a really stark fact, isn't it?
It is. And it's not just some historical footnote. It's foundational. It shapes almost everything about Brazilian life and culture.
Absolutely.
So today on the Deep Dive, we're really digging into Brazil. We've got this rich collection of information, and we want to understand this complex, captivating nation.
Exactly. Our mission here isn't just to list facts. We want to, extract the core insights, find those surprising details, and really get how the history, the people, the culture, the nature, how it all fits together.
Right. Think of this as your shortcut to really getting Brazil.
A deep dive, yeah. Comprehensive, but hopefully digestible.
Precisely. We're going to look at who the Brazilians are, the layers of history there. We'll touch on the music, the celebrations, the films, books, art.
And the incredible landscapes, the animals, plants, the cities, the food.
And Brazil's role on the world stage today.
So let's start right at the beginning. Who are the Brazilians?
Okay, well, to answer that, you absolutely have to go back way before any Europeans arrived. We're talking about 500 years ago or so. The land we now call Brazil was home to, well, estimates say over 5 million indigenous people.
5 million, that's a huge number.
It really is. And these weren't nomads just passing through. They were born there. Their ancestors lived there for, thousands of years.
Deep roots.
Deep roots, yeah. And incredibly diverse, too. Different nations, distinct cultures, languages, ways of life, totally connected to their environment. It wasn't just one group.
Right, a mosaic, like you said.
Yeah.
And then April 1500. Pedro Alvarez Cabral arrives.
And that changes everything. The Portuguese arrive and Brazil becomes a Portuguese colony. Almost immediately, people start coming over from Portugal.
Looking for gold initially, wasn't it? Or was that later?
Well, there was hope for gold, definitely. That was often the driver in the Americas. But by 1600, you had about 30,000 Portuguese settlers there.
But the first big thing they found, the thing that really got the colony going economically, wasn't gold. It was Brazilwood.
Brazilwood, the tree that gave the country its name. Why was that so important?
It's all about the dye. The wood itself contains this really vibrant red dye. And back in Europe, that color was super valuable, highly sought after for dyeing expensive fabrics, luxury textiles.
So it was an economic driver right from the start.
Absolutely. The Portuguese saw the potential immediately. They set up a monopoly, started harvesting it intensively, exporting it back to Europe. That trade, that specific tree, is literally why the land became known as Brazil.
Wow. So the name itself comes from this first major export.
Exactly. The nation's identity is tied right back to this tree and its dye.
But this arrival, this focus on resources, it must have had a terrible impact on the indigenous people already living there.
Oh, absolutely devastating. It kicked off intense conflict, obviously, as the Portuguese pushed inland and their interests clashed with existing ways of life.
Right. Land conflicts.
Land, resources, everything. But beyond the violence, there was another killer. Disease.
The diseases the Europeans brought with them.
Exactly. Smallpox, measles, the flu. Things the indigenous populations had zero immunity to. These diseases just ripped through communities. It caused catastrophic epidemics, a massive population crash. That figure of over 5 million, it plummeted.
Just wiped out.
Largely, yes. Through fighting, and even more so through these diseases. Entire cultures, languages, social structures were shattered. It's hard to overstate the impact.
A truly tragic part of the story.
Yeah.
And then things shift again in the mid-1500s with sugar plantations.
Yes, another absolutely pivotal and deeply tragic turning point. From the 1550s onwards, the Portuguese start setting up these huge sugar plantations, especially in the Northeast.
Okay.
Sugar production is incredibly labor-intensive. Backbreaking work.
And they needed workers.
They needed a massive workforce. And tragically, horrifically, they turned to Africa. They began the forced transportation and enslavement of African people.
The transatlantic slave trade.
To Brazil, yes, and the scale is just staggering. Between roughly 1500 and 1850, estimates suggest around 4.9 million enslaved Africans were brought to Brazil.
4.9 million.
More than any other single country in the Americas. Think about that forced migration, the brutality, the dehumanization. It was fundamental to the colonial economy.
And that connects back to the fact you started with over half of Brazilians today having African ancestry.
Directly.
Yeah.
It's the undeniable legacy of this horrific, trade. It shaped the demographics, yes, but also the culture, the society, the economy, everything in ways that are still felt very strongly today.
It really underscores how much that vibrant culture we see is built on, well, immense suffering, but also incredible resilience.
Absolutely. Resilience is key.
So bringing it to the present day, who are the Brazilians now? How do all these threads, indigenous, European, African, and others come together?
Well, contemporary Brazil is this incredible mix. You have people tracing ancestry back to South America, Europe, Africa, definitely. But also, particularly in the 19th and 20th centuries, you had significant immigration from Asia, from the Middle East.
So even more layers.
Exactly. And this fusion, this mix, you see it everywhere. In the music, African rhythms, European melodies, indigenous influences, in the food, amazing combinations of ingredients and techniques from all over, and in the festivals, the celebrations across the country, it's incredibly rich and diverse.
And yet there's a common language holding it together.
Yes, Portuguese. That's the unifying thread for the, around 200 million people living there now.
Yeah.
It binds this huge, multifaceted nation together. Understanding that mix of history, conflict, yes, but also exchange and fusion is just crucial to getting Brazil today.
It really is a complex picture. Okay, so let's shift gears a bit. Let's talk about something Brazil is maybe most famous for globally. The music and the celebrations. Rio Carnival has to be top of the list, right?
Oh, absolutely. Rio Carnival is, well, it's a global phenomenon. The scale is almost hard to grasp unless you're there.
Tell us about it. What makes it so huge?
Okay, so you have these massive, elaborate moving structures, the floats. They're like works of art and engineering combined.
Right.
Then you have the samba schools. Each one involves thousands of people overall, maybe 40,000 dancers and musicians putting on these incredible performances they've rehearsed for months.
40,000 performers.
Yeah, it's huge. And the crowds watching on the streets, often over 5 million people. It's this explosion of music, dance, costumes, storytelling, just a total sensory overload in the best way.
5 million spectators. Wow. But Carnival isn't just Rio, is it? Other cities have big celebrations too.
That's right. Rio's might be the most famous internationally, but Salvador and Olinda up in Bahia in the northeast have huge, incredible carnivals. They have a different feel, maybe more Afro-Brazilian influence, different music styles, massive street parties called blocos.
Okay, so regional variations.
Definitely. And then there's the Galo da Madrugada, the Dawn Rooster in Recife. It happens on Carnival Saturday morning. Back in 2013, it apparently attracted over 2.5 million people.
2.5 million for one street party.
Pretty much. It's considered the biggest bloco in the world. So yeah, the carnival spirit is everywhere, each place with its own flavor. It's a massive part of Brazilian culture.
But it's not just Carnival. New Year's Eve in Rio sounds pretty epic too.
Oh, Réveillon on Copacabana Beach. It's legendary. Millions of people gather on the sand, nearly everyone dressed in white.
Why white?
Its tradition symbolizes peace, good luck for the new year. The atmosphere is amazing music, dancing, just this incredible collective energy. And the fireworks display at midnight over the ocean. It's spectacular.
Sounds incredible.
It regularly gets called one of the best New Year's celebrations in the world. It draws people from all over Brazil and internationally, too.
Brazil certainly knows how to celebrate. Okay, let's explore another side. Films, books, and art. Is there a strong tradition there?
Absolutely. Brazilians definitely love cinema, and there have been some really impactful films that gained global recognition. Walter Salles' film Central Station from 1998 is a great example.
I think I've heard of that one.
It's a really beautiful, poignant story about a woman who works writing letters for illiterate people at Rio's main train station, and she ends up helping a young boy search for his father. It's set right there in Rio, and the station itself is like a character showing all walks of Brazilian life.
And Fernando Meirelles, he's another big name, right? City of God.
Yes, City of God from 2002 was huge, really groundbreaking. It tells these interconnected stories about life, poverty, and violence in the favelas, the shanty towns of Rio.
It was quite raw, wasn't it?
Very raw, very energetic visually, used a lot of non-professional actors from the favelas themselves. It was powerful because it showed a side of Brazil that wasn't often seen in mainstream film, and it sparked a lot of conversation about inequality, both in Brazil and around the world.
And how about literature? Any key writers we should know?
Oh, Brazil has a fantastic literary tradition. Machado de Assis, born back in 1839, is generally considered the greatest Brazilian writer.
Okay.
He wrote these incredibly insightful, often quite witty novels and stories, really digging into human nature and Brazilian society in the 19th century. He's a major figure in Latin American literature.
And more recently?
Well, you have figures like Jorge Amado, whose novels really bring the culture of Bahia to life, often with a lot of humor and color. And then, of course, there's Paulo Coelho.
Right, The Alchemist.
Oh,
Hugely popular globally.
exactly. His books have reached a massive international audience, translating Brazilian themes into these more allegorical, philosophical stories.
It's interesting how these stories, whether film or books, have traveled so far. Now, visual arts. You mentioned a specific place in São Paulo.
Yes, the Tichilo Matarazzo Pavilion in Ibirapuera Park. It's a really important building, primarily because it hosts the São Paulo Art Biennial.
The Biennial?
Yeah, it's one of the oldest and most important contemporary art exhibitions in the world, right up there with Venice. Artists from all over show their work there, and the building itself was designed by Oscar Niemeyer.
Ah, Niemeyer.
Ooh.
The architect behind Brasilia, right. His style is so distinctive.
Absolutely. Niemeyer is arguably Brazil's most important architect. His work on Brasilia is iconic, of course, but he actually first gained international fame earlier in the 1940s for his modernist designs in a place called Pampulha in Belo Horizonte.
Okay.
But yes, Brasilia was his magnum opus, in a way. He worked with the urban planner Lucio Costa to design this brand new capital city from scratch, commissioned by President Kubitschek in the late 50s.
Designing a whole capital city? That's ambitious.
Hugely ambitious. Niemeyer designed most of the major government buildings, the National Congress, the cathedral, the ministries. They all have that signature style. Flowing curves, bold use of concrete, very modern. Brasilia itself is like a statement piece of 20th century urban planning.
And it was built incredibly quickly, wasn't it?
Astonishingly fast, like 3 years. With around 30,000 workers building this city, planned for 500,000 people. It was a monumental effort.
And Niemeyer himself had an incredibly long career.
Remarkable.
Yeah.
He lived to be 104 and was working almost right up until the end. He designed hundreds of buildings all over the world, not just in Brazil. He finished his last building just 8 months before he passed away in 2012. A true giant of architecture.
Absolutely incredible legacy. Okay, from the built environment, let's transition to Brazil's natural environment. It's famous for stunning landscapes.
Oh, unbelievably stunning. Brazil is just blessed with natural beauty. You've got everything from tropical islands and thousands of kilometers of beaches to the vast Amazon rainforest and the incredible Iguazu Falls. The variety is just immense.
Let's start with the Amazon. Its scale is hard to comprehend.
It really is. The Amazon rainforest covers over 3 million square kilometers just within Brazil. That's about half the country's total area.
Half the country.
Yeah. And the climate is, hot, incredibly wet, perfect for growing massive trees that can reach 40 meters high easily, creates this dense canopy. And importantly, there aren't many roads deep in the Amazon. So the rivers, especially the Amazon River itself, are the main highways. They're vital for transport, for life there.
And the Amazon River itself, how long is its journey through Brazil?
It's a giant. Over 6,400 kilometers long in total, flowing from the Andes to the Atlantic. It travels through Brazil for a huge stretch. It takes nearly 2 weeks for the water to flow from the border town of Tabatinga all the way to the ocean.
2 weeks?
Yeah, it carries an unbelievable amount of water, more than any other river system in the world. It's truly the lifeblood of the region.
Beyond the Amazon, there's also the Atlantic forest.
Right.
And another key biodiversity area.
Yes, the Mata Atlantica used to run almost the entire length of the coast. Sadly, a lot of it has been cut down over the century.
Deforestation.
Big time. But the parts that remain are still incredibly important. They're packed with unique species, something like 200 types of birds, and maybe 8% of all the plant species on Earth are found there. Many are endemic, meaning they don't exist anywhere else.
Wow, still vital then, even though it's smaller.
Absolutely. But its location near major cities makes it very vulnerable.
What about other notable natural spots? Chapada Diamantina National Park.
Chapada Diamantina in Bahia State. That's different again. Think big, ancient plateaus, dramatic cliffs, canyons, lots of waterfalls.
Sounds beautiful.
It is. It used to be a diamond mining area, hence the name Diamond Plateau. Now it's popular for hiking, climbing, exploring the unique geology. And it's great for bird watching, too. Lots of unique species and flowers.
And then there are the beaches. We mentioned Copacabana, but Brazil's coastline is huge.
Huge. Almost 7,500 kilometers long. You've got the world-famous Rio beaches, of course, with that amazing mountain backdrop. But travel north or south, and you find totally different vibes. Surfing beaches in the south, quieter fishing villages and turquoise waters in the northeast around Recife and Fortaleza. Just endless coastline.
And some interesting islands, too. Fernando de Noronha.
Right. Fernando de Noronha is an archipelago quite far offshore, about 400 kilometers. It's a protected marine park, absolutely stunning. Pristine beaches, clear water, amazing for diving and seeing turtles, dolphins. Access is limited to protect it, so it feels really special.
Sounds like paradise. And Ilha Grande.
Ilha Grande is closer to Rio, maybe 150 kilometers away. What's cool there is there are no cars allowed on the island.
No cars.
Nope. So it's really quiet. You explore by foot or boat. Beautiful beaches, lots of lush Atlantic forests to hike through, a great escape.
And we also have the Pantanal, the world's biggest wetland. What's that like?
The Pantanal is incredible. It's this vast wetland area, about 200,000 square kilometers. For part of the year, a lot of it is underwater.
So it floods seasonally.
Exactly. And that creates this incredibly rich environment, just teeming with wildlife. It's probably one of the best places on the planet to see animals in the wild: jaguars, capybaras, caimans, giant river otters, and just an unbelievable number of birds.
Wow. A wildlife hotspot.
Definitely. And finally, you have the Iguazu Falls on the border with Argentina.
Legendary falls. How big are they?
They're massive. It's not just one waterfall, but a system of 275 separate falls stretching nearly 3 kilometers wide. Some drop over 80 meters.
80 meters. The noise must be incredible.
It's thunderous. You feel the spray from viewing platforms. Standing near them is just awe-inspiring, seeing that sheer power of water. Brazil also has the Araca waterfall way up in the Amazon region, which is incredibly high, 353 meters, though much less known than Iguazu.
So much natural wonder. It leads perfectly into talking about the animals and plants themselves. Brazil is megadiverse, you said.
Hugely megadiverse. It has more different species of plants and animals than almost anywhere else on Earth. Just think about the birds. Incredible variety, including hummingbirds, some of the tiniest birds in the world, just a few centimeters long, zipping around.
Amazing. And at the other end of the scale, the rhea.
Right. The rhea, a huge bird, over 1.5 meters tall, like an ostrich. It can't fly. Sadly, they're endangered in some places now. In the past, their feathers were used a lot for carnival costumes, which didn't help their numbers. Now there are efforts to protect them.
Good to hear. And the Amazon specifically is just packed with life.
Unbelievably so. Estimates say over 30% of all the animal species on the planet live in the Amazon. The different layers, from the canopy down to the forest floor, provide so many habitats.
What kind of animals live there? Sloths?
Sloths are definitely there, those slow-moving, tree-dwelling mammals, about half a meter tall, usually hanging upside down, very unique.
And jaguars. You mentioned them in the Pantanal, too.
Yes, jaguars live in the rainforests and wetlands. Beautiful, powerful, big cats. They're really important in indigenous stories, but they're elusive, hard to see, and unfortunately endangered due to habitat loss and conflict with humans. The Pantanal has a best chance of seeing them.
What about the Brazilian tapir?
Another endangered rainforest and Pantanal resident. They're quite large, about a meter tall, with that funny-looking long nose they use to grab fruit and leaves. Really interesting animals, also important for the ecosystem.
And snakes. The green anaconda sounds pretty intimidating.
Chuckles. It is the world's biggest snake by weight. Found in rivers, swamps, they're massive constrictors, can eat surprisingly large prey, smaller animals, tapirs, even jaguars sometimes. They can get up to around 9 meters long.
9 meters. Okay, definitely impressive. And what about piranhas? They have a fearsome reputation.
They do, don't they? Big mouths, lots of sharp teeth. They definitely eat fish and other animals. There are stories and films about them attacking people.
Is that real?
Mostly hype. In reality, they mainly eat fish. Bites on humans are rare, usually accidental, or if they feel threatened, or maybe if water levels are very low. People actually fish for and eat piranhas in some areas. So not quite the movie monsters.
Good to know. And the pink river dolphins in the Amazon, they sound almost mythical.
They really do. They're amazing creatures, also called boto. There are loads of indigenous legends about them changing into handsome men at night and coming into villages, then turning back into dolphins by day. But sadly, they're also endangered now. Habitat loss, pollution in the rivers, getting caught in fishing nets, it's taking a toll.
That seems to be the recurring theme, habitat loss threatening this incredible biodiversity.
It's the huge challenge, yeah. Forests being cut down for wood, for new farms, it's relentless. The Atlantic forest, for example, has lost maybe 100,000 square kilometers over 500 years. Even in the last 40 years, it's shrunk by 20%.
That's shocking.
The Amazon is shrinking too. But it's important to say there are increasing efforts now by the government, by NGOs, by local people to protect these areas and the animals. It's a massive ongoing struggle.
Let's hope those efforts succeed. Okay, let's shift to the cities. You said most Brazilians live in cities now.
That's right, over 80%. And the cities are really diverse. You've got Recife on the coast with its beaches, Curitiba known for its parks and planning, Salvador with its incredible architecture and Afro-Brazilian culture.
And Brasilia, the purpose-built capital. We talked about Niemeyer, but what was the idea behind building it way out there?
The idea, driven by President Kubitschek, was to create a new modern capital right in the center of the country, away from the coastal cities like Rio and Salvador, a symbol of progress looking towards the interior. Lucio Costa designed the layout like a plane. As we said, it was built incredibly fast, just 3 years, initially for 500,000 people. Now it has nearly 3 million. It's unique, very organized, but some criticize it for being a bit sterile or car-dependent compared to older cities.
How does it compare to Rio, the former capital? Rio still seems like the heart of Brazil in many ways.
Rio is definitely still a massive draw. It wasn't the capital anymore after Brasilia was built, but culturally and touristically, it's huge. The setting is just unbeatable. Those famous beaches, Copacabana, Ipanema, with the mountains like Corcovado and Sugarloaf right there.
You can take a train up Corcovado to the Christ statue, right?
Yeah, the cog train. The views are unbelievable. And Rio just buzzes. Museums like the National Museum, music everywhere, especially samba. Plus, it has the Tijuca Forest right in the city, a huge piece of Atlantic forest. Life revolves around being outdoors, swimming, beach volleyball. It's got a very different energy to Brasilia. More laid back, maybe more vibrant in that sense.
Two very different urban styles. Okay, let's talk food and drink. Always a popular topic. What are some must-try Brazilian things?
Oh, you can eat well all over Brazil. A great starting point is pão de queijo.
Cheese bread. I've heard of that.
Yeah, these little baked balls of tapioca flour and cheese, they're everywhere, eaten anytime. Kind of chewy, cheesy, delicious. They actually have indigenous roots adapted with European cheese.
Cool. And the national dish, feijoada.
Feijoada, yes. It's a hearty black bean stew, usually with different kinds of pork and beef, salted, smoked. It's rich, flavorful, often served with rice, greens, toasted cassava flour called farofa, and orange slices. It's a real feast, often eaten on weekends.
Sounds filling. What about seafood? Big coastline must mean good seafood.
Definitely. Moqueca is a famous seafood stew. There are regional versions. Moqueca baiana from Bahia in the northeast uses coconut milk and palm oil, giving it a rich, distinct flavor.
Okay.
Then there's Moqueca capixaba from Espírito Santo state, which is usually lighter, maybe uses annatto for color instead of palm oil. Both are amazing ways to taste fresh Brazilian seafood.
And for meat eaters, churrasco, Brazilian barbecue.
Ah, churrasco. A national passion, especially in the South where the gauchos, the cowboys, come from. It's all about grilling meat, especially beef, often on big skewers over open flames.
Simple preparation.
Yeah, often just salt, letting the quality of the beef shine through. And the beef in the South is excellent. You find churrascarias, barbecue restaurants everywhere, serving all kinds of different cuts. It's a very social way to eat.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
What about drinks? Is mate common?
Mate, or chimarrão, as it's often called in the South, is very popular there. It's that herbal tea made from yerba mate leaves, drunk hot from a gourd with a metal straw, often shared among friends. It's got a distinct kind of bitter taste.
But the number one drink has to be coffee, right? Brazil is a giant coffee producer.
Absolutely. Coffee is king. Brazil grows about 30% of the world's coffee, and the way most Brazilians drink it is cafezinho.
Whittle coffee.
Exactly. A small, strong, usually sweet cup of coffee. People drink it multiple times a day. It's a ritual, a sign of hospitality. You'll be offered cafezinho everywhere.
I'd like that. Okay, finally, let's look at Brazil as a world player, economically and in things like sports.
Yeah, Brazil's role is growing. Economically, it's a powerhouse in agriculture. Coffee, sugar, beef, soybeans. But also manufacturing, they make planes, computers, a lot of cars, over 3 million a year. So a significant industrial base, too.
And in sports. Well, it's all about football, isn't it?
Pretty much. Football or soccer is like a religion there. The passion is unbelievable. They've won the World Cup 5 times, a record.
And they've hosted it too.
Twice. 1950 and then again in 2014. The whole country just lives and breathes it during the World Cup. Getting tickets is crazy. Over 3 million were sold for 2014.
Hosting must be a massive undertaking, building stadiums everywhere.
Huge investment. For 2014, they built or renovated stadiums in 12 different cities, from Porto Alegre down south all the way up to Manaus in the Amazon, including famous ones like the Maracana in Rio. It's a massive national project.
And they hosted the Olympics too, right?
Yes, the Rio Olympics in 2016, the first time the Olympics were held in South America, again required building new stadiums, an Olympic village, showcased Brazil on a huge global stage for all kinds of sports, not just football.
So Brazil is definitely a major player globally. As we wrap up this deep dive, what are the key things you want people to take away about Brazil?
I think the main thing is just the sheer diversity and richness. You see it in the history, that complex mix of indigenous, European, African roots. You see it in the culture, the music, the art, the food. You see it in the incredible natural landscapes. And you see it in the people themselves, this dynamic blend that's created a truly unique national identity. It's a country of vast scale and complexity.
It really is. It's been fascinating exploring all these different facets. So thinking about everything we've discussed, the history, the culture, the resources, its global standing, what do you think might be the next big chapter in Brazil's story? What should we be watching for?
That's the big question, isn't it? You know, with its incredible natural wealth and vibrant culture, maybe the next chapter is about balancing development with protecting those resources. Or maybe it's about tackling those deep-seated social inequalities we touched upon. Or perhaps solidifying its role as a leader, not just regionally, but globally. There are huge opportunities, but also, significant challenges ahead for Brazil. It's definitely a country to keep watching.